Community's leaders, newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics that affect all our lives in Yavapai County. And now here's today's County-Wide.
Welcome to County-Wide. I'm Kyle Benedict, sitting down with Flagstaff's firefighter paramedic Paul Sanders, also one of their public information officers. You guys have probably heard him on the radio. We talked to him a lot and just on different stories up there. So Paul, nice to meet you.
Thanks for having me this morning.
So first off, thanks for making the trip down here. I know sometimes in the morning it's kind of early, but tell me a little bit about yourself. I mean, it's nice to actually kind of meet you in person.
Yeah,
talking
absolutely.
To you on the phone
Talk a lot on the phone, yeah. My name is Paul Sanders. I'm a firefighter paramedic with the department. I've been there for about 4 years, and I'm also do the PIO stuff for them, like you mentioned already, and I'm loving it.
Okay, great. Well,
Flagstaff local.
Yeah. Oh, born and raised, huh?
Born and raised in Flag.
Man, so how has it changed? I mean, it seems like every year, I went to school up there, and it was every single year, it seemed like there was more and more people coming to Flagstaff.
Yeah, Flag's growing, no doubt about it. And you just look at the student housing and, you know, the traffic congestion and everything, Flag's getting a lot bigger. We're on pace to run about 14 or 15,000 calls this year.
Wow.
So,
wow.
There's definitely been an increased workload around there.
Okay, great. So first off, we talked about a couple months ago smoke detectors and kind of the importance of smoke detectors. That was one of the main focus of fire prevention
in
this
October.
Year. In October, yeah,
Fire
correct.
Prevention Month.
And then just, it seems like right after that, we saw something come out from the Flagstaff Fire Department about this community outreach program that you guys are doing.
Yep.
How did that get started?
So basically what happened was, you know, starting in November of 2014, we experienced our first fatality fire in Flagstaff. And in that next 8 months, we had an additional 2. So we're up to 3 fatality fires in the city of Flag, which is, you know, kind of an anomaly. That's pretty rare, 3 fatality fires, and really it could have almost been a 4th had it not been for a quick response from us. And we found a lady that was trapped in her home with fire, that was lost and disoriented in there, and we were able to get her out safely. So really, you know, 3 that could have been 4. And so as public servants, what we were tasked with doing is finding out, okay, we got to identify a trend here and what's causing this. And so, you know, I have to pay a lot of homage to Pat Stasky, who's our fire marshal right now. And he found that in the 3 fatality fires we had, they were all senior citizens, they were living by themselves, and they were additionally had no operating smoke detector at their home. And so, you know, with that, we found that maybe it's time to do some public outreach, maybe some public education on the importance of smoke detectors.
Okay, so what, are you guys hitting specific communities, or how are you determining on where you guys go? So
through some grant writing, Chief Stasky was able to determine that there were some target neighborhoods we wanted to focus on. And then he teamed up with United Way and the Red Cross, and then he has also had participation from obviously FFD, you know, off-duty people and volunteers, but some online crew or on-duty crews as well. And then we've had some people from APS and NAU also join us. And what they do is they've gone out and they canvass these areas, and they have you know, free smoke detectors, free batteries, and some informational pamphlets, and they go and they educate the public on the importance of having an operating smoke detector.
Okay, well, as you mentioned, that was kind of a common theme in those, at least the 3 fatalities. In
Absolutely.
So now, do you guys, you go in there and you offer these smoke detectors. Do you guys carry those on your engine? Yep,
so all of our frontline apparatus have them now, and we have a little bag that has batteries and smoke detectors. And we've also set it up with dispatch to where if someone calls and has any questions about it, they can dispatch us out on duty as a non-emergent incident, and we'll go there and we'll either fix their smoke detector if it's broken, maybe it just needs a battery, whatever, or we'll just put a brand new one in if they don't have one. And then we can also kind of, like I said, we have those pamphlets. We can just give them some quick talking points about the importance of having a smoke detector. So.
Okay, now as far as those, how often should the batteries be checked and changed?
You know, they start to chirp when the battery's going out, but we recommend at least checking them every 6 months, if not sooner. You know, batteries fault, smoke detectors can fault, but they'll start to chirp, or if you don't see the indicator light on them. So just pay close attention to them. They're pretty good about letting you know when it's time to change batteries.
Okay, a good phone number for the Flagstaff Fire Department, 699-3723. You can also call your local fire agency for any questions on smoke detectors, or will you guys come out and help?
Absolutely. And you know, we've also been doing some community outreach things where we've gone to, you know, senior citizen community centers and things like that. And you know, there's several times you talk to, you know, maybe a little old lady who says, I don't feel comfortable getting up on a ladder, you know, my smoke detector's 12 feet up in the air. And you know, we'll come and help you with that kind of stuff too.
Okay. So now when you go out to these communities, is it What's that conversation like? Is it more explaining the importance of smoke detectors, or is it just kind of getting in, installing it, and getting out?
You know, you'd be amazed how many people don't even have a working smoke detector in their house and don't understand the, you know, the brevity of that situation, how you need to have one. And so a lot of it's, you know, just questions. Hey, how many smoke detectors should I have in my home? Where should I put them? And so it's just, you know, it's a little bit of everything. It's question and answer. It's just, yeah, overall information.
Okay. Just, I mean, it's education,
yeah,
right?
education, public education, absolutely.
So now, in terms of being in a home, let's kind of just go into a scenario real quick. You're sleeping at night. Unfortunately, your home catches on fire, or it's filling with smoke. What should you do at that point? You
know, so we always really emphasize to people when we do these public outreaches that you need to do something which is called EDITH, and it's an acronym that stands for Exit Drills in the Home. So we really stress the importance of having a plan with your family or by yourself that if you wake up and your house is charged with smoke or whatever, that you get on the floor, you stay low where the visibility is going to be better, and you have a plan to safely exit and a rendezvous point outside, maybe the mailbox, maybe the neighbor's house, maybe your family car if it's, you know, in a safe place, something like that. So just as long as you have a plan in place, because that's going to be a chaotic situation when you wake up if your house is on fire. You know, maybe have 2 points of egress, and make sure you have everyone accounted for, and call 911 quickly, of course.
Okay, so now I imagine if you don't have smoke alarms in your house or smoke detectors, by the time you're alerted, and if the fire's going on in the middle of the night, or if your house is filling up with smoke, by the time you are aware of it, I mean, at that point, you have quite a bit of smoke in your house, I can imagine.
And you know, a fire doubles in size every minute. So, you know, if you don't get some early notification, it can put you in a tighter spot than you want to be, for sure.
Okay, so how much smoke, I mean, does it take before it starts affecting you?
You know, that's kind of a tough question to answer because everybody's a little different. But, you know, anyone who's ever been around a campfire and you maybe gotten that initial burst of smoke right to the face when you're lighting it or anything, it doesn't take a whole lot. You know, 2 or 3 good puffs of those superheated, you know, gases and everything, it can do detrimental damage to you. Okay, so smoke detectors. Yes.
And now, is this outreach program just kind of ongoing, or you guys all?
It's ongoing, and I mean, just some quick numbers. You know, we've had, in the contacted areas, we've had 887 homes visited, 654 people weren't home, so they just put door hangers, you know, informational pamphlets. They've installed 125 smoke detectors. They've put 110 fresh batteries in people's. And based on these stats, just kind of doing some round numbers, they've estimated that a number of residents with no smoke detectors is about 40%. So it's going to be an ongoing, you know, effort.
Okay. And then, so now moving on your Facebook page, which the Flagstaff Fire Department's Facebook page has a lot of information. They put out press releases on there, photos, and then this is information on frozen pipes was on there a couple of weeks ago, and just kind of the importance and some tips on how to prevent your pipes from freezing. If they do freeze, what do you do? Is that a pretty big problem up there? I imagine in Flagstaff, but even down here.
And I mean, that's one thing. People go, oh, we're in the Verde Valley, it's not going to get cold down here, you know. The freezing point's 34 degrees, and it can be. We can have cold snaps where it can get well below that, even down here in the warmer climates and everything. And in Flag right now, I mean, I know when I left this morning, it was about 20 degrees out, so more than ample cold weather to freeze pipes. But yeah, it's an ongoing problem for us. We run on average every winter 50 to 300 frozen pipe or water-related emergencies.
Okay, well, when we come back from our first break, we'll talk about some of the tips to help you prevent your pipes from freezing. Coming back here on Countywide, we'll see you in a couple minutes.
You make me wear my bike helmet. You taught me never to run with scissors. And to follow the swimming rules.
You tell me to stay away from drugs.
To always buckle my seatbelt.
So why do you keep a loaded gun in your drawer?
How safe is that?
You asked them to follow some safety rules. Now they're asking you. In fact, they're counting on you. Never let your gun get into the wrong hands. Remember, always lock it up. Visit ncpc.org.
Here is my handle and here is my spout.
When I get all steamed up, then I shout.
Tip me over and pour me out. Oh.
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life.
Cheers.
Take time to be a dad today.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
Welcome back to Countywide. I'm Kyle Benedict, sitting down with Paul Sanders. He's a firefighter and paramedic with Flagstaff Fire, also one of their spokespersons. You guys have quite a few up there, and it's really nice. I mean, there's a lot of people going on, and as we mentioned, their Facebook page is a great place to start for information. You can also call them at 699-3723, and anything that we're talking about here today, you can call your local fire agency, and they'll be able to help you out with that as well. So moving on to frozen pipes. You mentioned that's you guys run quite a few calls each year about frozen pipes.
So just before the break, I mean, I was talking a little bit between 50 and 300 calls a year, depending on cold and we get the cold snaps here and there, so it can be quite a bit, no doubt. And
what are some of the the main concerns with frozen pipes? I mean, obviously you have your pipes are frozen. But what are some of the main issues?
Well, ultimately the biggest problem is as soon as it gets warm enough for those pipes to thaw, there's usually going to be a rupture somewhere in the pipe. And then, then you start talking about untold amounts of property damage from that, from massive amounts of water flooding and, working their way through your home or your, the company that it's in or wherever the building might be.
Okay, so what are some of the main things that we can do to prevent our pipes from freezing?
One of the biggest things we encounter on a regular basis is there's a lot of people that, they leave the office for the night and they, turn the heat down to save money or whatever the reason may be. And there's a lot of vacation homes in Flag as well. And so what we tell people to do is, keep your house heated to at least 50 degrees, which is, pretty reasonable. It's a little cold for if you're living there by yourself, but if you can if no one's there, keep it heated to 50 degrees, and that'll usually alleviate most of the problem as well. But also look for vulnerable areas in your house. Maybe there's an area with some exposed water pipe that's not wrapped properly in insulation, or a place you maybe need to keep a heater on, going maybe a little portable space heater for a room that's susceptible, like a riser room in an office building or something like that. And that's going to be the biggest thing. And then if it were to happen, know where your water shutoff valve is from the city water main. Usually it's in the front, kind of corner of your house, but that changes home to home or business to business. But know where that's at so you can operate that quarter turn valve real quick, get the water shut off, because that's going to be one of the biggest things. Is if the water just flows and flows and flows, you're talking about inches of water in a home, sometimes up to a foot of water in a house. And so if you can at least stop that, then you can get the restoration company in.
You mentioned making sure pipes are in certain areas are insulated properly. What are some of the ways we can do that as a homeowner? How do you insulate a pipe, and what do you looking to get out of that?
So you could go to Home Depot and there's pipe insulation that they sell, and there's everything from extreme insulation to thinner insulation. So it's whatever you think you need, and you can always talk to an expert or a plumber on that. Just make sure that if you do see exposed pipe, that it is insulated. And we're at 7,000 feet. It gets down to single digits and negative here. So.
Now, one thing that that sheet with the list of tips on it said at the very top was, do not thaw frozen pipes with a torch.
Yeah.
Is that something that people do a lot?
Well, yeah, I can't say they do it a lot, but that's a bad idea, because you're talking about something that's frozen solid and heating up one concentrated area with a super hot torch, and so that's almost a guaranteed recipe for disaster.
So what's the proper way to thaw out pipes if you do have frozen?
So if you have frozen pipes, my first recommendation would be you call a plumber, because they're going to have a specific technique to make sure that they heat it out or thaw it out in a proper method, so it's not just a rapid expansion of all that water that So I would say first and foremost, call a plumber and get their tips on it for what they do, because each situation might be a little unique depending on the level of the extent of the frozen pipes. Maybe it's one section, maybe it's the whole home.
So now moving from the inside of the house to the outside, it talks about outside faucets and as well as hoses.
Yeah.
that seems like something, forgetting to disconnect the hose in the
Yeah.
winter seems like something that would be really easy to slip your mind.
Yeah, and that you know, in the grand scheme of things, is relatively benign for what it could be. Because a frozen hose, you know, yeah, maybe you forget that, you disconnect it, and then your hose is, you know, frozen until it gets warm enough to tip. And that would be the better end of things. It's the interior pipes of the home that we're more worried about, because those are the ones that are going to rupture and burst, and maybe they're behind the drywall, so they just, you know, flood and flood and flood. And we talked a little bit earlier about ways to identify that. You know, listen for running water in your house. Maybe there's just a hairline crack somewhere in a pipe, but it's just steadily leaking. You know, that can still, over time, accumulate to hundreds or thousands of gallons of water.
So when should the public call the fire department? You mentioned if you have frozen pipes, you definitely want to contact a plumber.
Yeah.
Are you guys getting called for more extreme cases?
Yeah, we typically don't get calls of just, hey, my pipes are frozen, because that's not necessarily, you know, an emergency we can do a whole lot about right then. That's why I reference calling the plumber. We usually get the call for, hey, I can hear a water gong going off in a, you know, big business or commercial structure, or hey, I think my neighbor's house is flooded because I can see water coming out the front door. And typically, I mean, we'll go to these places and we open the door and water comes pouring right out the front, sometimes as much as, you know, 6 inches to a foot of water, you know, in the dead of winter. And so then that becomes a property conservation thing for us. We usually try and get, you know, we have a bunch of squeegees that we carry on all of our trucks, and, you know, we try and get people's personal possessions up out of the water as best we can, and we squeegee out all the water as best we can. And, you know, so those are time-consuming calls, and when you got some of those stacked up on top of each other, you know, sometimes that can make response times a little slower to get there. So, you know, it's an ongoing issue for us.
And then hopefully the goal is to have a shutoff valve to prevent water from building up like that.
That's why, you know, I really stress the importance of going out there and at least stopping the water flow for a little bit. That'll help us a lot, you know.
Okay, and you mentioned how many calls a year do you guys run regarding that?
It's an average between 50 and 300 a year. And, you know, obviously with a milder winter like we had last winter, you know, the calls are probably not going to be as frequent, but I think it was 2012 we had a really cold winter, so.
Well, you know, like you mentioned, there's a lot of vacation homes.
Yes.
Up in that area.
Unattended homes, maybe people only visit in the summers. You know, people that own homes in Phoenix, but they want to get out of the heat and come in the summer. But that's extremely important to make sure that thermostat's set to, you know, 50 degrees. Maybe have a family friend or a friend come by and check on the place periodically. Yeah,
I mean, you leave the home in the summer. At the end of the summer, it's nice, 65, 70 degrees out. You're like, oh, I don't need the heat or anything on. And
then we get a cold snap where it's down in the negatives, and that's when trouble can happen.
And then I also saw on there talking about just people when they're out, you know, clearing their sidewalks and stuff, to make sure you clear snow or whatever it is from fire hydrants.
Absolutely, yeah. We're actually kind of in some early talks about maybe developing a program called Adopt a Hydrant. And in the city of Flagstaff, we have over 4,000 hydrants. And, you know, when you need a hydrant on a home that's on fire, or for whatever reason you need, you know, a large volume of water, we have maps that identify where hydrants are, but if they're buried under 4 foot of snow, it becomes, you know, a little more difficult. We'll find them, but it can be a little slower than we'd like it to be. So we're kind of talking about doing a community outreach program where we would have, you know, snow cleared away from the hydrants, maybe, you know, maybe the hydrant that's closest to your primary residence or your primary business, you know, you take the initiative to go out and maybe just shovel around a little bit, clear some of the snow out, make sure it's accessible. And then, you know, conversely in the spring when things are starting to grow, make sure there's maybe not a whole lot of weeds and debris around it, and kind of clear around them.
Not a big bush growing right around it from all sides.
Exactly. You know, maybe 3 foot of clearance around it.
Okay.
So more to come on that later, I think.
Okay, great. Well, we're talking frozen pipes, smoke detector community outreach program with Flagstaff firefighter Paul Sanders. This is Countywide. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in a couple minutes.
I think someone at my friend's school has this thing called autism. My friend's brother's son has autism. My neighbor's son has autism. My son has autism.
Autism is getting closer to home. Today, 1 in 68 children is diagnosed with autism. That's about a 30% increase in 2 years. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs.
Oh, I heard you dropped art class. What happened?
Life happened. I'm too old for finger painting. You guys going to Haley's thing tonight?
Totes, time to get trashed.
I don't.
That was for your eyes only, Brian.
Baby, if you send it to me, it's public property.
Speak for yourself. Live above the influence.
Here's to the things that can keep us safe. Those we use all the time with hardly a thought. Those that are silently standing by to save our lives. And now, those that we carry with us everywhere we go. Many mobile devices will now bring you wireless emergency alerts, real-time information directly from local sources you know and trust. With the unique sound and vibration, you'll be in the know, wherever you are.
Welcome back to Countywide. I'm Kyle Benedict, sitting down with Flagstaff firefighter and paramedic Paul Sanders. We touched on smoke detector, the community outreach program going on up in Flagstaff, and just some of the reminders with smoke detectors. And we also touched on before the break frozen pipes, how to prevent those. And now Paul just has a couple holiday safety reminders. I mean, and now holiday season is here.
Yeah, it's in full swing. And, you know, Kyle, just like we were talking about a little earlier, you know, it's a busy time of the year right now, and that goes everything from, you know, travel is going to be congested, and people are going to be, you know, maybe in a little holiday frantic mode. And so just, you know, we really like to stress the importance of, you know, having a heightened sense of, you know, safety and awareness, because, you know, when there's a large body of people trying to move places, driving is going to be more dangerous. And then on top of that, you know, we talked already about cold weather, but there's a good chance we're going to have snow impacting a lot of the area. And so, you know, driving your vehicle in inclement weather is a huge deal. And just, you know, maybe take time to slow things down a little bit. And you know, with that, it's a busy time in everyone's life, especially in the home, and that can be, you know, a busier time in the kitchen. Maybe there's a lot more people. Maybe people are indulging a little more in alcohol than they usually do. So, you know, kitchen fires are a big thing this time of year with, you know, Thanksgiving and then Christmas coming around, and there's a lot of hands in the kitchen. So, you know, use extra caution when you're cooking and all that. And then on top of that, around the holidays, you know, statistically on a nationwide average, there's about 47,000 holiday home fires. And, you know, a lot of those have been traced back to maybe some questionable wiring of Christmas lights where they've got, you know, several extension cords ran out. Maybe it's candles that are lighting curtains on fire when, you know, they're unattended. So, you know, just keep an extra eye out for stuff like that around the holidays.
Okay, great. Yeah, and we talked about the frozen pipes, your heating appliances and stuff. We just had about 2 weeks ago, recently here in the Verde Valley, a house fire that was due to a wood stove. So.
Yeah. So, you know, if you have any questions at all, maybe your your wood stove's not plumbed correctly into your attic and out, to use. Maybe call a professional to have them come inspect it and make sure it's all good, make sure there's proper spark arresters where they need to be. And then it's that time of the year where we start seeing kind of unconventional heating methods. You know, it's not uncommon to see people put a barbecue grill in their house for a primary source of heat. And so some of the more questionable heating methods, just make sure that, you know, you're practicing safe practices.
Okay, great. Well, hopefully everyone has a safe holiday. And I want to thank you again for coming down
Thanks
today.
for having me down here.
Great. Well, that's going to do it today for Countywide. That was Paul Sanders with the Flagstaff Fire Department. I'm Kyle Benedict. This is Countywide, and we'll see you next time.